Hey guys, here we go. We are back with the latest episode of the AMT 1968 Corvair build for my buddy Dave. We're going to take a look at the progress we've made and some of the extra detailing that's going to be done for this car. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, now we're looking at the chassis here. We're going to look at some of the extra detailing and also a couple of issues that I've found with the kit so far, which are not really something that should be in a kit, but hey, this is why we are scale model builders, because we can overcome any obstacle. And if we got to re-engineer a kit, that's exactly what we're going to do. Alright, the first thing we're going to look at is the detailing that we've added to the engine. If you look close here, let's see if we can zoom into that, give you a better look. Thanks to my buddy Dave supplying me some pictures. There are quite a few lines that are running, fuel lines running from the carburetor to the fuel distributor here, then you have the carburetor here to fuel distributor, then there's another line running to the carburetors here, and then there's the carburetor linkage that adjusts them both. All of that was added using the B-landing craft wire, which you can pick up at any craft store, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, and that, along like in the last episode where I showed you how I bend them to shape, and just a bit of measuring. And here I got a little bit of photo etch there to build the linkages for the, let's see if we can give you a good look at that. There you can see the linkages going to the carburetors. A little bit of photo etch help there. Now, to install the engine was a little problematic, as no matter how hard I tried, this engine would not fit in this chassis, which I thought was kind of odd since I had previously built one of the later releases of this car from the Prestige series, and as you can see, the engine fit into the chassis without any modification. Now, I couldn't figure out why that was. Now, I did build this one well over 20 years ago, but I couldn't figure out why that was until I took a good look at the chassis, and I realized that even though the rest of the kit is the same, the two chassis are different, as this one has an extra opening here, and it looks like there's actually less space for the engine, in which case certain modifications have to be made just to be able to get it into the car. So what I'm going to guess is that since this one is apparently an early, if not the first release of this kit, they made modifications to the chassis in order to make assembly easier in the later versions of it. So that's why the engine went into this later version of the car easily, and why in this one it didn't fit. Now, let me talk to you about what I had to do to make it fit. First thing is, with the carbs installed, the engine will not fit up into the engine compartment. So what I had to do was I had to notch out the engine compartment here, and I had to remove this part of the rear bulkhead in order just to get the engine to sit into the engine compartment. Otherwise, there's no way that that was getting in there. Now I'm going to reinstall this part here, and since this sits underneath the rear bumper, you'll never see it, much like here. So I don't have to worry about the cuts being noticeable, as you're never going to see this part of the car because it's covered by the bodywork. So that is the extent of what I had to do to get this to fit. And then the mounting pegs, which there's one here and supposed to be one here, do not line up with the mounting holes. I actually had to cut the forward peg off just to get the car to sit, the engine to sit level inside the chassis, while this one sits into its mounting peg. So now the engine, I have not even glued in yet, but it's in there pretty snugly, so there's no real danger of it falling out. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops of glue where the peg should be, and hopefully that will resolve all our issues with the engine mounting. So, you know, this is an old kit, and as to be expected, it's got old kit issues. Alright, now let's move on to our next little bit of progress on the car. Here we have some color on the body. This is a polycarbonate paint from Tamiya, which is used for RC bodies. Now the only issue with that is the paint is sort of a matte in appearance, so it's going to require a clear coat. Now, the new thing of me trying this polycarbonate paint on the body of a car. I never tried that before, so I'm hoping that this works out well, because the color is very close to Dave's car, the closest that I've been able to find. And I'm hoping that it all works out, because if it does, then this should be a nice match to his car. So I just put the color on today. This is called metallic. I think it's just called metallic blue. Oh no, metallic anodized blue is what it's called, from Tamiya, from their polycarbonate paints, the PS paints. And like I said, it lays beautifully. I mean, smooth. Not a hint of orange peel in the paint. You know, super smooth. Just has no gloss. As you know, a high gloss isn't really necessary in an RC car, because you're painting the car from inside the body, as most of the bodies are transparent. So the bodies themselves will provide the gloss coat. So we're gonna gloss coat this in a couple of days once this paint fully cures, and then we should be good to go as far as the body. Now, next thing we want to talk about is the rear suspension. The rear suspension here is, all in all, not a bad part, but I decided I'm going to do a little extra detailing. So I made coil springs for it, which is going to add a bit more detail to it. They have coil springs engraved into the part, but I didn't think they looked realistic enough, so I figured we'll make some coil springs, space them out real nice, and it'll give it a much more realistic appearance. Now, for making the coil springs, what I used was just a heavier gauge. This is a 20 gauge bead landing craft wiring, which I found seems to be the perfect scale size for making the coil springs. Now, I just found something that's similar diameter to the coil spring there, and basically all I did was this paintbrush just happened to be the perfect size, so I just wrapped the wire around it and as many coils as needed to give it the appropriate height. Just snip the wire off, slid it off the paintbrush, and we have one of our test ones. Just slid it right off the paintbrush, and boom, you have a coil spring. Very easy way to add some extra detail to the car. The rear suspension this rear suspension spring link arm has been painted with Tamiya semi-gloss black. Then the Outclad pale gold used on the shocks, as the shocks in Dave's car are gold. And then titanium gold used for all the bolts in the arm. Alright, time to continue with some more assembly. If you guys run across this kit or choose to build it, or if you can find one somewhere, which it really is not a bad kit. I mean, yes, it does have fitment issues, but overall, it's not a bad kit. As you can see, the details are pretty nicely done. And with a little extra effort, it makes a really nice model. So I'm going to keep going with this. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. And remember, like, subscribe, leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. You know, I respond to just about every comment when I can. And I'd love to hear from you guys. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys on the next one.